It's what's gotten us in so much difficulty. I can tell you this. We're going to pay for what we get. We're going to make sure that we don't overpromise. We hope to be able to overdeliver. I believe in every single instance that the private sector will do a better job for you guys than government will do. And that's the promise that I'm going to make today. Yeah, sure. You got the black shirt on there? Hi.
The foundation for, you know, how you got here, everybody got here from how they got their jobs. I mean, everybody's sitting down. Did you actually sit down and plan out anything about education right now?
He said he's in education, those who didn't hear the first of his question. And did I sit down and plan something in education? And the answer is yes. And I see we're almost at the 140-degree point here, so I'm gonna stop with this question and then make a couple of more comments. But first on education, you're absolutely right. We got here thanks to good education, great values, wonderful parents, a strong economy, and a nation with enduring values. Education's a big part of that, and our education system is failing our kids. When you look at how our schools are doing compared with schools around the world, we don't stack up so well. How can it be the nation that invented public education can't compete with Singapore and South Korea and Finland? It makes no sense at all. We rank in the bottom third or bottom quartile in various measures, as you know, in English, not in English, in math and in science. And so people look around for the answers. When I was governor, they said, if you want to improve our schools, we need to have smaller classroom sizes. Makes sense, doesn't it? But then I looked at the data and looked at the relationship between classroom sizes in my state and how the kids were doing. We found there was no relationship at all. As a matter of fact, a group called the McKinsey Institute compared schools around the world and found that classroom size isn't related to how well the kids are doing. Then they looked, well, how about spending per pupil? That didn't relate either. Guess what was by far the single most important characteristic of how well the kids were doing? Yeah, the education, experience, and capability of the teacher. And so those school districts that were doing the very best around the world, the Finns and the South Koreans and others, were hiring teachers from the top 10% of the college graduates. And we too often were hiring from the bottom third. And why is that? Well, because the teachers' unions tend to be very interested in retirement benefits for their most tenured faculty members and not terribly interested in starting salaries. We need better starting salaries to attract more people into teaching. I like competition. I like, charter schools and parochial schools and a chance for people to have choice. In my state, I get to brag for just a second. In my state, it wasn't just me. My predecessors back in 1993 went through education reform. They said to graduate from high school in my state, you have to pass a graduation exam in English and math. And then when I was governor, I added science as well. You have to pass an exam. If you don't pass that exam, you can't graduate. By the way, I added something else. If you graduate among the top quartile who take that exam in my state, you get a 4-year tuition-free scholarship to any public institution of higher learning. So that's a big incentive for kids to do well. And we test our kids every year in school to see how they're doing. And if a school district is failing, the state can take it over. And by the way, we're authorized to eliminate any item in the contract with the teachers' union that's interfering with the education of the children. So we put in place charter schools. We fought for charter schools and got them. And what's the result of all this? The result is that now, by the way, there's a national exam called the NAEP exam, where we test 4th graders and 8th graders, each in English and math. My 4th graders, #1 in English. 4th graders, #1 in math. 8th graders, #1 in English. #1 in math of all 50 states. This hasn't happened before. These principles work. I'm convinced that it's time for us to have people who will stand up to the federal teachers' unions and put our kids first, and I will. I want to thank you. believe, inspiration when the founders said that the rights that we have were not given to us by government, but instead by God. And that among them are life and liberty and the pursuit of happiness. We are a free people pursuing our dreams. That has made us what we are. And this president and his friends are slowly but surely taking away our economic freedom with higher taxes and greater regulation. Piece by piece, they're taking away the very freedoms that allow us to pursue our dreams. If they continue on this course, they will change the very nature of America. It is time for us to restore the principles that made us the hope of the earth, and with your help, I'll get that job done. Thank you so much.